In this case, the FISA court said that they had reason to doubt the reliability of FBI applications across cases because of the level of misleading information that you personally signed off on. Do you regret your role in this unprecedented misleading of a FISA court? Mr. Comey, we've heard a number of things this morning. We've heard you say a number of times that the OIG found problems in FISA applications across the board. But of course, it was only this FISA applications, these involving Carter Page that you signed off on, that drew an unprecedented rebuke from the FISA court, which I'm sure you remember. Let me just quote from that FISA court order. The frequency and seriousness of these errors in a case that, given its sensitive nature, had an unusually high level of review at both DOJ and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, have called into question the reliability of the information proffered in other FBI applications. Do you remember that order from the court?
It came after I left, as I recall, but I remember reading about it, yes.
And have you ever known the court to issue any other such order that you're familiar with?
Yes.
You have known the court to issue orders rebuking the FBI for misleading it in the past?
Yes. Shortly before 9/11, there was significant criticism by the FISA court of the quality of FISA applications.
And the court said that the frequency and seriousness of the errors in applications led it to doubt the reliability of all FBI applications in all other cases?
I don't remember the exact words, but something similar. And as I recall, they banned at least one agent from appearing in FISA applications.
Yeah, well, that's not what they did here. I mean, in this case, the FISA court said that they had reason to doubt the reliability of FBI applications across cases because of the level of misleading information that you personally signed off on. Do you regret your role in this unprecedented misleading of a FISA court?
I don't regret my role. I regret that it happened.
Why not?
I'm sorry?
Why don't you regret your role in the unprecedented misleading of a FISA court?
Well, I regret that the FBI supplied information to a FISA court that was inaccurate, incomplete, and should have been updated.
Do you regret that you signed off on it?
Well, I regret that it happened. The only reason I'm hesitating is what the FBI director does in connection with a FISA is actually very narrow, but put that to the side. It's important that it be accurate, and it wasn't, and I regret that very much.
Listen, you said this several times. I frankly don't understand it. The certification that the statute requires is a certification by the FBI director as to the contents of the application. You signed off on it. The FISA court said it was so misleading that it now had reason to doubt the FBI's truthfulness across the board. Are you responsible for these certifications or not?
I don't believe you're accurately describing the statutory requirement for certification.
Are you responsible for these certifications or not? Answer my question.
I sign certifications on every FISA that the FBI sends over to the FISA court, including these.
Are you responsible for this misleading evidence given to the FISA court? Yes or no?
Yes, in the sense of command responsibility. No, in that I didn't have personal knowledge that would have led me to understand that we weren't supplying complete information.
Let's talk about what personal knowledge you have. When you certified the first Carter Page FISA application, you believed that Mr. Steele was working for the Democratic Party, didn't you?
I don't remember whether I knew the Democratic Party. I knew that he was working for political opponents of President Trump.
Now, let me remind you of your testimony under oath on December 7th, 2018, before the House Oversight Committee, in which you said, and I quote, Steele was retained by Republicans adverse to Mr. Trump during the primary season, and then his work was underwritten after that by Democrats opposed to Mr. Trump during the general election season, end quote. Now, surely you recognized at the time that relying so heavily on a biased source would undermine public confidence in the FBI's activities, didn't you?
No, I did not.
Why wouldn't you? You told the same committee, the House Oversight Committee, December 7, 2018, and I quote, when you're the leader of a justice agency, that's you, the appearance of bias is as important as the existence of actual bias. You also said a reasonable appearance of bias can corrupt the American people's faith in your work as much as actual bias can. Do you stand by those remarks?
Very much so.
But you nevertheless allowed the Democratic Party to leverage the federal government's most invasive intelligence capabilities against President Trump, and you personally signed off on it. You also knew at the time that other officials in the Department of Justice had serious concerns. Do you know who Stuart Evans is?
I do.
Mr. Evans was a lawyer in the National Security Division of DOJ under President Obama, wasn't he?
think he was, I don't know for sure. I think he was a career official at the Department of Justice involved.
He was a lawyer in the National Security Division of the Department of Justice. Before the first Carter Page FISA application, Mr. Evans raised serious concerns about the ostensibly partisan nature of the information provided by Mr. Steele. Did he not?
I don't know.
He did. The Inspector General reports it on pages 136 and 137 of this report. And you knew of those concerns before you signed off on the FISA application, didn't you?
I don't think I knew before. I remember reading the footnote that attempted to inform the court of potential bias.
No, actually, the Inspector General found on page 139 of the report, and I quote, on October 12, 2016, Evans' concerns about Steele were briefed to Comey, end quote. And yet you signed off knowing that the research was funded by the Democratic Party, knowing that senior officials in the Department of Justice National Security Division had serious concerns. You signed off nonetheless. Let's talk about what else you knew or didn't know. When you certified that FISA application, did you know the allegations in the Steele dossier came from subsources, not from Steele's own knowledge?
I believe I did know. He had a network of sources and subsources, correct.
Did you know who this primary subsource was?
No.
Did you ask who the primary subsource was?
No.
Did you ask the FBI to take any steps to identify that source before submitting this application to the FISA court?
I don't know whether I asked. I knew there was an effort underway to try to replicate Steele's source network so we could figure out what to make of Steele's reporting.
Well, what the Inspector General concluded was that Comey told us, this is page 153, that the application seemed factually and legally sufficient when he read it, and he had no questions or concerns before he signed it. Surely you realize that the source's identity and his motives, this subsource, who we now know may well have been a Russian agent, that would affect his credibility, correct?
I thought it was important that we were informing the court of any potential bias from any source. And I remember reading language in that initial filing that addressed that potential bias issue with respect to the Steele reporting.
So I'm sorry, your testimony now is that you informed the court of potential problems with the subsource, political motivations, connections to foreign governments. The FISA court was informed about that?
No, I'm sorry. I understood your question to be about whether we informed the court about potential bias in Steele's reporting. I didn't know the identity or any information about subsources.
So you personally authorized an unprecedented surveillance on an individual associated with the presidential campaign during that campaign's ongoing time period, October of 2016. You signed off personally on 2 further applications based on information from a source that you believed correctly worked for the Democratic Party, and the source's information, it turns out, was coming from a suspected Russian agent, yet you did nothing to try to verify any of this information. You brushed aside the concerns of high-level national security lawyers at the Department of Justice. How are the American people to trust you or the FBI following abuses like this?
I disagree extensively with your predicate. I think the FBI is an organization that is honest, competent, independent, and also flawed because it's made up of human beings.
Well, I have to say, I'm not necessarily worried about the FBI as a whole. I'm worried about you, and I'm worried about what you certified to a court that led the FISA court to conclude that it had been misled repeatedly, and that due to the nature of those repeated misrepresentations, it could no longer trust what the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the agency you led, what it said in subsequent cases. That, I suggest to you, is an incredible dereliction of duty, indeed a betrayal of your responsibility as director of the FBI. If I could, Mr. Chairman, just one last thing I want to follow up on. The letter from to Chairman Graham from John Ratcliffe, which I know you've seen, Mr. Comey, as you mentioned it earlier. Mr. Ratcliffe says, on 7 September 2016, U.S. intelligence officials forwarded an investigative referral to FBI Director James Comey regarding U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton's approval of a plan concerning Donald Trump and Russian hackers as a means of distracting the public from her use of a private mail server, end quote. Did you open an investigation?
I don't know what that refers to. As I said earlier, that does not ring any bells with me when I read that.
You did not receive any investigative referral of this nature?
I don't remember it. I don't remember receiving anything that's described in that letter.
I have to say, Mr. Chairman, I realize my time has expired. I find it extraordinary that a referral from the IC to the FBI regarding Hillary Clinton's campaign and potential illicit activity received no attention from the FBI. So little attention, the director doesn't even recall it. And yet, the director and others had plenty of time to go and seek surveillance warrants during an ongoing presidential campaign. Warrants so flawed that the FISA court has now said it can't trust what the FBI says in future cases. This is an extraordinary abuse of power, and it's time we held people responsible for it.